I want to say it started around like middle school. It could have been earlier than that. There were some people like they didn't exactly make fun of me, but they would try to like insult me in a way, and their insults me like anytime I would get into like a little argument with someone, people would commonly say, "Oh, I'm going to put you back in the box," and I'm just like, really? So yeah, so like that was a common comments I would get from certain people. Like it didn't even make me mad. Like I would just look at them like, really? Okay.
Sounds like something people in middle school would say.
Yeah,
All right. At least I
exactly.
am a showgirl. Go back to UPS where you belong. Hello, everyone. Welcome to an episode of The Box Cutter, where we take apart an episode of Disney's Out of the Box to see if it still holds up. My name is Daniel, and my co-host for today is actor from Season 1 and Season 2, screenplay writer, performer, actor, and Zumba instructor, Mr. Dane Hammond. How are you today, Dane?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I am excited to have you on, even though you don't hear it in my voice, but...
That's all right. I'm excited to do this.
Long story short. So, first things first, the day-old question of how did you get into acting?
Well, yeah, the way that all started, I'll never forget. Many years ago, this is either 1996 or 97. Of course, we would get the newspaper like just about everyone, and there was an article in there that said new TV series for kids. It wasn't really that descriptive, but it definitely said that. And initially, I didn't want anything to do with it. I was just like, whatever. And then my mom was the one who was like, oh, you should try it, see what happens, And all that we had to do, because it said on there that we just had to send in a picture of ourselves to, whatever the address was. So I used my horrendous second grade picture. And for some reason, I guess they really liked it. And then I ended up going on 5 different auditions for the show. And then I got into it. And
5
that's
auditions.
how it all started. Yeah.
That's a lot. What do you have any recollection? Like, did they have you read lines, or did they just like have you guys just do exercises while people were like observing on the side?
The only recollection I have is of the very first audition I did, where it was a lot of us kids. I don't know. I'm not sure if like any of the kids that made it onto the show were in that audition with me, but they just wanted us to sing a song of our choosing. And I don't remember the name of the song, but I chose a Hanukkah song because my sister, when she, whatever grade, she was in elementary school and she did a chorus concert and she sang that song and I remembered it. So yeah, for whatever reason, I chose to sing a Hanukkah song. I guess it resonated with them somehow, and then
I'm sure they were all laughing, like, "What the hell? What the hell is this kid doing? Why is he singing a Jew?"
So yeah, that's how that all happened. But like I said, for the other 4 auditions, I wish I could remember what I had to do. I mean, I'm sure they probably had us like do a little bit of reading, but unfortunately, I can't remember the details of the other 4. But whatever I did, it worked. And then I ended up getting into the show. So
this was your first step, your first dip in the pool, and then you got it. And so, do you have like any like recollection of like how you felt after like getting the part, or like going to the studio in Queens and just seeing the set, or like any other kids that were on the show?
It was initially a very terrifying experience at first because, again, that was I had no prior acting experience whatsoever. So, we get there and I'll never forget. I was so nervous for my first day of shooting, I threw up. It was one of those moments. So yeah, the whole atmosphere at first was just extremely terrifying, weird, strange, all of those words. But then, after I had that little episode, as we, just kept getting into it, got to know the kids more, production staff, it became, it ended up being a very comfortable environment and experience. But yeah, very scary at first.
I can imagine just like how scary, because it's like, you were put into the situation, and now you're like, everyone has their attention on you. And
Right.
it's like kids aren't used to having so much tension on them. They just are like doing their little thing, and then when everyone's staring at them,
Yeah.
it's like they get really nervous.
Mm.
Do you recall like how you interacted with like everybody else on the show? Like,
Yeah, overall, it was a very familial, I think that's the word, experience. Like we basically bonded like a family ultimately as we went on. And I'm not even just talking about the cast, like including the production crew as well. Like everyone knew each other. We would all, stop and chat with each other, outside of shooting an episode. Like of course, I'm not gonna lie, like, yeah, there were some, disagreements, fights here and there, nothing like explosive, but ultimately it was a very positive experience. We all mostly got along. But
mostly.
Yeah. Outside of those little moments, ultimately, yes, it was a great experience. I do not regret any of it. It's always going to be very dear to my heart, no matter what.
Well, yeah, that was what I was really mostly thinking. I was like, everyone always says that they are like one big happy family on those sets, but then like 10 years later, you hear from like the 3/4 quarter of the cast of Glee saying like, oh, this person was just terrible and all that. So,
right. Yeah.
It's important to talk about those moments because, well, I feel like as adults, we shouldn't let things of our past really dictate how we, live our life.
Right.
I wasn't the most. Yeah, I wasn't. I was very angsty. I was very angry as an adolescent, but I accepted those parts. I accept those parts of myself, and rather than resent them, I just like I said, I just move on with my life. I don't let it control how I live my life.
The whole big happy family thing. I mean, it's not like that isn't true. It is, but at the same time, like, I'm not gonna lie and sit here and act like it was just all bunnies and rainbows the whole time. I mean, no matter what you're doing in your life, there's always going to be those moments where you just don't get along with people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's just how it is sometimes.
Yeah. Even in your own family, if you love somebody, doesn't mean you're going to agree with them all the time.
Exactly.
But after filming Box, what would you say was like the aftermath of it? Did people recognize you? Did anyone at school like say anything or make fun of you? What exactly was the aftermath of the whole experience of it?
Yeah, people definitely started to recognize me after a while. It wasn't really that weird though. It wasn't like, I couldn't, go to my classes without being bombarded. Like, it wasn't that serious. It's like, people would watch the show, be like, oh my God, I saw you this and that. And, just leave it at that, go on with our lives. But every now and then I'd have those, special people say those special things to me as if that was supposed to ruin my day. And I'm like, okay, like whatever. But, no, but yeah, ultimately, like it wasn't anything, like it wasn't, overbearing or overwhelming at all. Like for the most part, my childhood still was pretty normal outside of that.
And what was included in your hobbies besides acting and performing?
Definitely drawing, because I used to draw a lot when I was younger.
You mentioned it on the show a lot.
Yes. Yep. So drawing was definitely one. Gaming, which that is still a huge part of my life.
What was your first console? Do you remember what your first console was?
Yes, the Sega Genesis. That was let me try to like clarify. The first console I ever played on was the NES, but the first one that actually was mine was the Sega Genesis. I got that Christmas of '94.
What is your favorite that you've had?
Like favorite console or game?
Console.
Well, right now my favorite console is the Switch. Absolutely, hands down.
Well, my first console I remember was the Nintendo GameCube, and I call it my first. I had a 64, I had a PlayStation, but I consider the GameCube my very first console because that was the one I saved up all my money to buy for myself. The nice. Nintendo and the PlayStation, those were the family consoles, so I never say that they were mine. But the GameCube was my first, and in hindsight, I should have kept it versus selling it to get a PlayStation 2.
Oh,
because
boy.
of how crazy expensive the GameCube games are now. But I got one maybe like back when I was around 19. I bought myself one again, and luckily the games weren't too expensive back then. So I was able to buy a few, and I've had lucky breaks where I go to like the Salvation Army and they're like for $1, all in their case and stuff, all nice and neat.
Right. Oh, okay.
So,
That's good.
so yeah, my favorite and my first console that I ever bought.
Okay, good choice because the GameCube was awesome. It definitely was.
So, after Box, what other projects, like any other notable projects you've done besides Out of the Box?
Well, I did a few commercials afterward. I did. You remember the Hess truck commercials? You know, the Hess truck's back and it's better than it. That one, I did one of those. I believe it was for the year or turning into the year 2000. I think it was that one. I did a commercial for that. Hamburger Helper for the, what was it called? Cheesy enchilada, that flavor, which was really hard to find at first for some reason when we did it, but it was really good, let me tell you. Did that, and then for Nickelodeon, when it was turning to the year 2000, they were doing like these Nickelodeon specials. I did one of those, and also the show, it's been off for a while, but there was a show back in like the late 90s, early 2000s called Third Watch. It was a show about paramedics and the whole like that field. And it went by two different titles because I believe at first it was called the episode was called 4 Days, and then it was retitled Awakening. I'm not sure why that happened, but in that episode, I played the main character, Doc, as a child in flashback sequences. So I did that as a guest spot. And then I got to work with Chris Rock and Wanda Sykes back when he used to have the Chris Rock show on HBO back in the early 2000s. So I did 2 skits with him, which was pretty cool. But yeah, like professional TV wise, that was just about everything that I did after Out of the Box was done, or I was off of the show.
And that's basically with your choice to be like, you know what, I'm done, or was it like your parents' choice to be like, well, you know?
It was my choice, but not like. Pretty much what happened was, you know, as I was getting older, you know, I needed to focus on school more. And then on top of that, like my confidence level was kind of like getting lower. So like there was definitely a string of auditions I was going on for certain things and I wasn't getting anything. So it was definitely lowering my confidence. So then after a while, the agent that I had at the time, they weren't representing me anymore. So obviously for a long time, I just wasn't doing any professional work. But starting in high school, though, that's when I started to do stage work, you know, theater, which was really nice.
So what was your first production?
First production was Lord of the Flies, my freshman year of high school. We did a stage adaptation of that, it was a really interesting production because we actually, instead of like having the audience, you know, like sit in the house, they actually were on stage with us. Like it was a very intimate experience. It was, well, that's right, because the director that we had, Andrea Arden, she definitely was the type to, she didn't really like to do things in a standard fashion, which I thought was pretty cool. So yeah, that was my first stage experience that I had.
I see. And so then that's what, you know, you got bit by the bug of theater, and then you went off to college and studied theater. Yes, correct? And
correct.
How did dancing get intertwined with all of this?
That basically just came with the territory in high school because, well, first of all, the school that I went to was called Somerset County Vocational and Technical High School, or VOTEC for short. Because in New Jersey, because I'm not sure like if this is a thing anywhere else, but over in New Jersey, there were VOTEC schools, and they would do a share time program of sorts with other neighboring schools in their county. So my freshman year, though, I went there full time because my academic school, Franklin High School, they weren't doing the share time thing. So I went VOTEC. I went to VOTEC full time first, and then sophomore through senior year, I did the share time thing. But anyway, along with doing the acting class for 3 periods in the morning, every now and then we also would have like a dance class, at least like once a week, sometimes twice. Like it wasn't really like a concrete schedule with that. They would just change it around. But like I said, it just came with the territory. So, you know, we'd have like a little dance class, a couple weeks, and then I realized, I just got more and more interested in it. And then with college, as a theater major, you were required to take a few dance classes for a few semesters. So obviously, once again, came with the territory. But yeah, I realized that I really like doing it. So, any opportunity I had to take a dance class, I was like, all right, let's do this. So that's how
So
that all happened.
what would you say is your favorite style of dance?
Hip hop is definitely one. I also like African, tap, contemporary, jazz, vogue, tutting. Even though I can't really do footwork, I do like watching footwork. I'd like to teach myself it though. I definitely appreciate like all forms, well, most forms of dancing, but like the ones I listed, those are definitely my favorites by far.
I'm more of a modern. I really like modern. I took dance and I almost got associates in community college before transferring, but then I was like, well, the department I did dance in, they were very cliquey. Long story short, dancing, I've always loved it. It's very similar to when I did karate. I did karate for more than 5 years. And then I transitioned from karate to dancing. And yeah, that's basically my experience with dance. I love it. I love every form of it. But I just don't like the infighting and the drama and all that stuff that goes with the territory of it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's what happens.
Yeah. Because the thing is, like, when it comes to the theater arts, like all forms of it, like no matter what, there's always going to be like that's like slight bit of competition in certain people. I mean, like, I get it. It's, sometimes it can't be helped, but at the same time too, it's just like, especially, if you're doing a musical or a play, anything with other people, it's just like, no matter what, like, you're a unit. You have to work together. Because trust me, in college, I've done a couple shows where, like the ensemble were just so catty doing a lot of this, and because actually it was the producers. We did that my junior year. I was cast in it as Carmen Gia, but then I also, along with being the dance captain as well, I ended up becoming the associate choreographer because the choreographer we did have, she ended up leaving without finishing everything. Like, we knew that she had an outside project, but like I said, she just left and didn't finish everything. And then the responsibility of finishing the choreography fell on me. And I'm like, are you kidding? But I did it anyway. But the thing is, like, it got to a point because, like, there was one night of rehearsal, like, I had like 3 people come up to me and they're like, oh, such and such is saying this about me, or they're not doing this. And then after we did our run, I just told them flat out, I'm like, listen, we're an ensemble. We're supposed to be working together, not talking about each other like we're in elementary school right now. Like, this is completely unnecessary. Like, yes, we're in college, but still you need to act professional. And if you can't do that, you shouldn't be doing this. So believe me, I understand exactly what you're saying.
I work with children as a teacher of sorts, as an educator, and they're always trying to get in each other's. And I'm like, you guys need to learn to mind your business. All right, if it doesn't involve you, or if they're not talking to you, mind your business.
Yep,
because it ain't yours.
As simple as that.
And they still do it every now and again because they're kids. But at the same time, they've learned to like mind their business, and unless someone's like is really upset, they just leave each other alone. But other than that, going back to see Out of the Box again, because you've been posting a lot about it on Instagram. What was your initial feeling of like looking back on it? Were you like a little like, oh my god, this is so weird looking at me, or was it
yeah, but like the older I got, and like when certain things would come back to me about the show, I'm just like, oh, like basically the way you just did it, like I would feel like that at first. But then at the same time though, especially recently, I'm like, you know what, like I shouldn't really be embarrassed about this, because like I'm seeing more now how much of a positive impact this show had on a lot of people. Because seriously, for years it really did not click with me, that aspect of it, because it didn't seem that popular. So I went on and I just was like, all right, people, it's over with it. But I met more people. They would freak out about it, and with Tony and Vivian doing the whole TikTok thing. And I'm just seeing now more, that I was like, wow, this really meant a lot to people. So now I'm just like, I really don't have anything to be embarrassed about. I mean, I was a part of something that was very wholesome and pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? In a
innovative.
way, it was kind of ahead of its time.
Yeah, it's very
It was.
DIY. DIY is very in trend these days.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with the whole,
Exactly.
inclusiveness of
Mm-hmm.
everything, you had
Yeah.
white, Italian, Jewish, black, Asian, Latino,
Mm-hmm.
all of that represented in one show. But,
Exactly.
and it didn't feel shoehorned in, because I know, like, some shows back then, they kind of felt shoehorned with the
Yeah.
whole minority thing. But this show, it just felt like a group of kids, because it wasn't like the whole cast together.
Right.
It was like, they would mix you guys up. Okay, today it's going to be this person, this person, this person, and the next episode. So it's like, it was just kind of like organic in how it
Right.
was like.
They didn't like make a big deal about like, oh look, we have a whole bunch of different kids of
Right,
different nationalities.
and the
It's like,
hosts,
we got kids, whatever.
and the hosts, were people of color. Vivian is Filipina, and Tony the black man.
Yeah.
And to see that representation of minorities on TV at the time, I'd say is just something that it didn't feel like it was made a big deal because, well, these are people. It's not a big deal for a black man to be hosting the show. It's not a big deal for this, Asian woman to be right alongside him. It was different to see people of color hosting a show rather than, the typical picket fence white host. So that's my take from it. I don't like to ever really get political about things. I try and leave that,
Same here. But at the
So-
same time, I mean, you bring up very good and valid points. Like, it's true. I mean, because of course at the time, like, no, I wasn't thinking about anything. I'm just like, oh, I'm meeting new people, But yeah, looking back on it now, especially with what's been going on in recent years, I'm just like, yeah, we we did quite a few things that were not very common back then, and
Right.
nowadays are very, very important.
Right.
So
And
yeah,
also
I'm definitely proud to have been a part of that.
yeah. Also, like, the approach of it. Maybe it was more of like there was something very magical about that 90s presentation, because it was like it was very inviting. It wasn't like people are screaming in your face like nowadays with like YouTubers and TV shows. You had like this inquisitive type of tone to your voice, and you would invite people to come along with you. Like if you're friends and you know each other and you're just hanging out at somebody's house, like Bear in the Big Blue House, same thing, where it's like you got this big giant bear with the softest voice, just making you feel comfortable.
Yeah, and we also worked in the same studio as them.
Yep, and also Sesame Street.
Yep.
What is your personal opinion about Tony and Vivian? What would you say is your personal opinion of them, working with them for 2 seasons?
I love them. Like, seriously, and I'm not even saying that to cover anything like that, because the funny thing is I've had so many people ask me over the years, like, were they mean? This and that. I was just like, no. Like, they did not have, at least for me, they did not have one mean bone
They
in their
don't
body.
seem like that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the reason why they would ask that, because, and I'm sure this has happened in other, movies or shows that have kids and adults. Like, I'm sure there are adults who get, who just aren't great with kids in that environment. But no, like, they really were like parental figures. So it's like, yes, our parents were there with us on set, in the green room while we're filming. But seriously, like, every time we did something, they were always pleasant. Always. They always took care of us if it was necessary. Like, yeah. I mean, it's been a long time since I talked to them, but trust me when I tell you, I will always remember them very fondly. Always and forever.
Yeah, like, most of the time, I'm able to feel like how when people talk, if it's genuine or like they just put on a front, but for some reason, even looking back now, it's like Tony and Vivian, it's like they never gave off this front of like, oh, I'm a good person, and and I love people, and I eat graham crackers and apple juice as a snack. They don't put on that front. They just
Not
seem like
at
they
all.
genuinely want to be there and genuinely care for those that they get the opportunity to work with.
Yeah.
it's so great that you had the opportunity of knowing them, and that everyone else in the world who saw the show had the opportunity to know such genuine people, and all that greatness. And now they're on TikTok, so
I mean, again, like when it first happened, because of course, when Tony first did it, I had like 3 people send me that in one day, and I'm just like, all right, I know what this means, because they would put like those eye emojis on it, like, okay, like I think you got to explain it. So at first I was just like, oh no, but the more I think about it, I'm like, no, I think I probably should do this.
Well, I mean, we're very close to 25 years
Yeah,
since Out of the Box.
which is wild.
2 years until the 25th anniversary of the show.
That is crazy.
I know, right? 25 years ago.
God.
My goodness.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, you shouldn't feel old. I feel like you said, this is a timeless show.
It really is.
That, if you were to show it to a kid now, they would be like, you sit down with their mouth open like a trout, looking at the TV, and then bugging their parents about making an ocean drum or something.
Right.
Well, besides that, do you have any, is there anyone else that you had, a relationship with? Jill, Nick, CC, Christopher, any of those people?
Definitely Alicia. Well, first of all, on the show, me, Alicia, and Nick, we pretty much were like the 3 Musketeers for a while. And it sucked because we were only in 2 episodes together. But outside of filming, the 3 of us and our families, we were always talking to each other, hanging out outside of, the set. We were always, we were definitely the closest. But over time, still to this day, Alicia's family and my family, we're still very close to this day, because my mom and her mom, they're like this, inseparable. So yeah, but like I said, with everyone else though, I actually did try. I messaged Nick a little bit last week, but he's been very busy with work and what he's doing in his life, so didn't really get to have much of a conversation. But I still have some kind of some way to contact him. But the others though, I've lost contact with after all this time. But yeah.
Do you feel like, for you though, the show has influenced you in the direction of creativity that you've taken?
Yeah, I would definitely say that, because ultimately, just the way that my mind works, I'm trying to think of how to explain this without sounding totally weird, but I always just think of ways to mash things together in a way, and I think that mainly happened because of me being on Out of the Box, because the way that we handled everything on that show, we were always just basically just making, obviously using our imagination and just making things out of nothing. So I've had that mindset all this time, and
right.
I'm glad. Trust me, I'm glad that I had that mindset. Sometimes it makes me weird, and it's definitely made me feel like a little bit of an outcast, because I have such a weird mindset with stuff like that. I don't, for a long time, I will admit, I felt like I just never really fit in anywhere. But like I said, at the same time, I do not regret developing that type of mindset, because it's I'd rather have a mindset like that and be able to think so creatively than not at all,
Right.
That's just me. But yeah, no, it definitely influenced me.
Well, we share the same sentiments then. Because, I think the same way of I like how this is, and I like how this is, so why not put them together? Or sometimes I don't have what I need, but I'm able to supplement it with other things, because I fix appliances, I fix dryers and all that stuff, and sometimes I'm well, this is just exactly like this, maybe I can just fit them together, and then it'll fix this problem. Or, I like macaroni and cheese, but I also like condensed milk. And I had that, honey. I've had that honey mac and cheese at Applebee's. Why not just put some condensed milk on my mac and cheese?
Yeah, why not?
I get it, of just looking at things in a different perspective of well, what if this person wasn't really the bad guy and the good guy was just, selfish?
Yeah.
So, it definitely makes you think, though, sometimes of am I really meant to fit in somewhere? Because I've had that same experience of I thought I would fit in here. I thought I would fit in here. I just don't fit anywhere. But over time, I've just developed the thing of, well, maybe I'm not supposed to fit in. Maybe I'm supposed to be an outlier
Yeah.
and someone who speaks the truth in terms of how they see it versus, weaving this narrative of I'm the victim and everyone's out to get me.
Yes. I'm really glad that you've been able to figure that out for yourself, seriously, because I know exactly what you're saying and how you feel. It took me a long time to learn to just accept that about myself. So kudos to you, seriously, for
Thank you.
figuring that out. I mean it. You're welcome.
But I totally get what you're saying when you talk about, out of the box and, you feel like no one's ever watched it. I never really bring up the fact that I do a podcast with until I started doing it because it's like, how do you talk about out of the box when it's something that hasn't been on for years, that's only started to be on Disney Plus, and when you were a kid, no one ever mentioned it or talked about it. So it's like, why would you want to talk about something no one ever talks about?
Yeah, no, I get it. But, now there's just this sudden resurgence, so hey.
Nostalgia is, in trend along with DIY.
Absolutely.
But speaking of in trend, do you feel that someone would get the idea of making a remake of this type of show?
It's possible, but would I want it to happen? I don't know. I feel like it would just depend on who's involved, in a way, if that makes any sense.
I do. I feel like I don't want it to be touched or tampered because I feel like in that sense it would be inauthentic.
Right.
Because it would feel like a quick cash grab, and everyone's always complaining these days about, oh, Tom and Jerry, that's a cash grab. Oh, Sonic the Hedgehog, that's a cash grab.
Yeah, because I'll admit, this, because it's definitely a trend doing the remakes and everything. I get it, and yes, I'll admit sometimes I do find them a little bit exhausting, but some of them are good, and some of them, I'm definitely, because I'm trying to think of one right now. Okay. It's not really a remake, but Avatar: The Last Airbender, that's starting to come back because there's new things coming, which I'm totally on board for because I love that series entirely. But yeah, no, with Out of the Box, it's just there are definitely ways that it can be brought back, but again, it's one of those things where the right people need to be involved, and it just needs to be done a certain way because, like you said, it can't just be. I know I would not want it to just be some generic cash grab type of thing, especially with me being part of it. It's just no,
so what if I was then, hey Disney, I'm gonna make a remake of Out of the Box, and I want Dane Hammond to be in charge of choreography, and I want Brandon to be in charge of audio editing, and I want this person, and I want Douglas Love as a consultant, and
absolutely, yeah,
and Tony and Vivian as consultants as well for this show. And it'll be another phenomenon like I don't know, Hip Hop Harry or something.
Yeah, there's just there's a lot of potential there.
I really do feel like it, but like you said, it has to be the right people. Otherwise, people will see right through it and be like, "Well, this is just a cash grab."
Exactly. Yeah, and I wouldn't want that at all, and I wouldn't even want to be a part of it if that was the approach that whoever wanted to take with it. No.
But if I can share one of my personal dreams in my life is to host a show just like Out of the Box.
Oh, really?
That is my personal dream.
Awesome. Hey,
even with the voice that I have, the monotone voice that I have, I feel like Fred Rogers did it. So I shouldn't be afraid of the voice that I have, as long as I put all the energy into it. I keep hearing that you were in an episode that's not streaming on Disney Plus. A lost episode.
Really?
Yeah. So there are three lost episodes of season 1. The Gift, Treasures, and Let's Eat Out. Do any of those titles ring a bell?
Okay, The Gift. What was the second one?
Treasures.
And Let's Eat Out.
Let's Eat Out. Okay, The Gift does sound kind of familiar. But I don't really remember anything about it. The Let's Eat one, I want to say, because I remember There were two episodes that were shot twice and reworked. Fuzzy Worm was one, and I want to say that the Let's Eat one, I think that was one of them too, because we did, I believe it was season 2, if I remember correctly. We did an episode like regarding, like cooking and restaurants and stuff like that. So I want to say that it was reworked into that. I could be wrong though, because I hardly have any recollection of these episodes at all. Like, them being lost episodes. This is kind of new to me right now.
Right.
But the Treasures one, though, I got nothing on that.
Right.
I don't know. Sorry.
Because, you know how on TV they put, like, the publication dates on each episode. So there are 3 episodes, The Gift, and then Treasures, and then Let's Eat Out. Those are 3 that are known to exist, but got taken out of rotation because they were made redundant because they did similar episodes in season 2, I guess.
Probably.
But I just wanted to ask because, I tried to ask Brandon because he was in 7 episodes, but he's only appeared in 5 in Disney Plus. And then there's people that have been letting me know that, Dane was in an episode, but it's not on Disney Plus either. Could you try asking him about it? But it doesn't make sense why they wouldn't put him on Disney Plus because, well, it doesn't, like, there's no run schedule or anything for that.
Yeah,
so.
That's really weird. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you with that one. I have no idea.
But there's definitely proof of them being out there. It's just figuring out what exactly they're about is the whole thing.
Okay.
So the episode we're talking about today is Playhouse Mouse.
Yes.
So Playhouse Mouse. So the episode starts with Vivian holding a basket with a surprise in it. It's her new pet mouse. And then Tony brings in you and Jill and Cece. And he tries to tell Vivian, I got a plan for today. And he's always interrupted by the squeaking sound. So you guys go over and you look and you see this basket. And you guess that there's this noise coming from this basket. So you're just like, I know, it's a mouse. I'd be like, ugh, that's gross. Why is there?
Oh, little Nugget.
Little Nugget. He's probably not alive anymore. But
Yeah,
but yeah, to be excited about a mouse, I'd be like, nah, that's.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because, like, if you put a mouse in front of me right now, I just feel like you need to distance yourself from me. But yes, at that time, I actually loved a little mouse for a while. I mean, the thing was cute. I'm not gonna lie, it was. But yeah, like when I think about it, that's so weird because I know I would not want to be near a mouse right now. But back then, when I was 7 years old, I was all for it. But I'm 31 now, and I don't want to deal with the mouse. So.
Oh yeah, your birthday wasn't that long ago. Happy late birthday!
Yes, thank you.
Before I forget, but yeah, it's kind of gross. I mean, I've kind of grown a little desensitized because That's So Raven. Kyle Massey's character on that show, he had a rat as a pet.
Oh, that's right.
Lionel. That's
right.
Named after Lionel Richie.
I forgot all about that.
But maybe Disney was on a hidden agenda of making mice and rats, normal pets. After all, their mascot was a Mickey Mouse head.
I was just about to say that. Yep. So yeah, maybe that was their plan.
So, but it's just so weird of them to. But then again, if there's always that rule of in TV, most people say never work with animals and never work with kids. But so I guess I get why they would be like, a mouse versus like a dog or a cat.
Yeah,
that would just take. It would be like pulling teeth to figure out how to film that.
Yes, I mean, of course, in most cases, if you're doing a movie especially with a dog, for example, like obviously they usually try to get one that's very well trained, of course. I mean, if you don't get a well trained dog, you're going to have a freaking circus trying to deal with it. But yeah, with the mouse, of course, we didn't really need to worry. Actually, I think there was one time I think we did because later on in the episode, yes, we did have trouble finding him, but I think there was a point where we did even outside of filming, we literally were like, wait a minute, where's the mouse? Like there was a slight issue with that, but yeah, no, because it was just a mouse. Like obviously dealing with it was very simple overall, which definitely helped a lot.
So yeah, you guys sit around it and you guys figure out a name, and you're like Whisker. Then Joe's all like Samantha, the most random. I'm like Samantha. that's, and then Cece's all like, well, Nugget, and I could tell you're like your character was like, yeah, I guess Nugget's okay, but Whiskers is a lot better. In your mind, you're probably just thinking that. Yeah, Nugget's okay, I guess.
Like, if you really think that's a great idea, then hey.
But, so after you guys name it, Vivian puts Nugget away in the basket. But it's a cute basket, but there should have been like a little latch or something on there. I don't know. Just because.
You would think.
You would think. But this is the 90s. We were in the blissful 90s back then.
Exactly.
Where safety wasn't really much of a big concern back then.
Yeah.
Now you won't even let your kids play in your backyard because you think there's strangers walking on the sidewalk in the front or something. Yeah. I don't know.
I know. It's a little out of hand sometimes. Mm-hmm. Like, I get it, but at the same time, it's just like, just calm it down. Like,
it's important. It's important for kids to exercise their risk, their cognitive skills, their curiosity and the cognitive skills that help them to assess risk. It's very healthy for them, and children are very good at assessing risk very well, their own limits.
Yeah.
So besides that, then you guys start to talk about Nugget's features, so like her whiskers and her tail.
It's music time.
The song is called "Everyone Can Be a Mouse." Very short, very silly. The music's a little generic, though. I will say that much. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little spoiled because of how the other episodes have gone, but like I'm just expecting like this very, jovial, jaunty, gallivanting number with like everyone jumping around and scurrying and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And this is just like, oh, everyone can be a mouse. Na, 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 na. It was very slow, and I was like...
Yeah, it was. That is, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Normally they have a fast song and a slow song, but they start with a slow song, and it's like... But, seeing you guys acting a fool on the camera, I'm like, what are they doing? The only one that looked normal was you. Jill was like hunched up with the pillows next to the window. I'm like, what is she doing? Cece is like doing something weird too. And yeah, you just look like the only person that knew what they were doing out of the three of you.
I will say all the time, yes, I did know what I was doing on that show.
Yeah. I will say though, in terms of whenever I do a discussion on the podcast and you're featured as one of the people in the episode, it's always the thing of everyone says, "Oh, Dane did a good job." Really? Like you're very solid and consistent. But I feel like for me, it was like sometimes it'd be like, I just wish you gave a little bit more in your performances because you'd always do it by the numbers. It's like you'd always color inside the lines and you'd always say exactly how it's supposed to be said. And I just wish sometimes you had to put a little bit more personality because I know you had that big smile. You always have that wide, big smile and that excitement. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I wish a little bit more of that came out from Dane. Just that excitement that
Yeah. The thing with that, though, I mean, believe me, I hear you. It's just the thing is, they really wanted us, to do things a certain way. So, right. That's pretty much why that happened. That's why I was the way I was with how I delivered everything.
Right. And I get it. They only have a certain amount of hours and they got to get it to editing and all that stuff and all that blah, 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 blah. But, I just wish that we got more of that, like that cheerful smile and that excitement that you gave when you first guested with a mouse.
Yeah.
So after pretending to be mice, Jill asks to play with Nugget. And while she's opening the basket, Vivian is like, oh, be careful, Jill. Make sure he doesn't, you don't lose sight of him. And, while she has the basket open and Jill's like looking that way And you're like, yeah, he might get lost. And guess what happened?
Lo and
Nugget gets
behold.
lost because she wasn't looking at him. And guess who's to blame? Miss Vivian. You got some explaining to do. My dear. But, yeah.
She should have listened.
How was she supposed to listen? She was literally, she was like, oh, I'm going to go play with Nugget. Instead of asking Vivian, hey, Vivian, can I go play with Nugget? And then Vivian would have been like, sure, just make sure to keep an eye on him.
Right.
But no, she goes over, opens the basket, like, hey, I'm going to play with Nugget.
Yeah, just made the executive decision. Not even asking.
But kids are like that. Kids are like that. They're like,
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
I'm going to go throw away the trash when they're not supposed to be getting up out of their seat and throwing it away. It's like, oh, Mr. Daniel, can I go throw away my trash? And then I let them. So I get it. Yeah, Nugget's missing. And you guys search for it, but you can't find her. You look, through all the costumes and all that stuff. And then everyone starts to worry because of how small she is compared to everything. Very good insight. Very clever on the writers, because it's like, this is a small, tiny animal. And everything else around him is big. Even your feet.
Right.
You could step on her.
Mm-hmm.
So, so it gives some stakes to her being lost and how dangerous it could be for a small animal to get lost.
Yes.
So, then Jill gets the idea and asks if there's a picture of a cat. So Vivian finds one, and she takes you and Cece into the picture.
Let's jump into the picture and see what we can see. It's time to go exploring. Jump on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, jump!
Yes, so not even nearly every episode. It was every episode. We would jump into the picture. And so, of course, with doing that, we use green screen technology to make that happen. Basically, I mean, of course, like part of it, yes, we would be on set, talking to Tony about it, whatever. But the actual motion of us going into the picture, yes, we had to be in front of a green screen, and they would use, their computers, whatever programs they had to digitally make it seem like we were actually going into the picture. But yeah, the first time when we had to work with that, it took a long time, because normally we were all out of there around like 6-ish. But that night, we didn't get out till like 11 o'clock at night. So, because like we did our normal filming of the episodes and as well as schoolwork, normal schedule time. But yeah, we were there for like an extra 5 hours or so just to get that all done. And of course, I know for me, I didn't see that coming at all. I had no idea what a green screen was or what it did until that that night happened. So it was it was just a little strange at first, but of course, over time, I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. The thing with green screens, though, because they were very adamant. They were just like, you have to step on it a certain way. Do not drag your feet. Because that's one of those things. It's like, if you are not careful with the green screen, you are going to screw it up. They are so easy. Like, they're basically fragile. Let's just put it that way. So that was another reason why it took a long time, because we could not mess around on that.
And so what happened after filming so late that first time?
So for me, after filming that late, because since I was not native to New York, because me and my mom, we would commute from New Jersey to New York Monday through Friday, there. And since we weren't native to New York, we were not aware that most subway stations would close after a certain amount of time. So, we're trying to find our way back home. Well, really first to Penn Station so we could get on, the regular train to go back to the New Brunswick station in New Jersey. But yeah, we're just walking around, finding every subway that's closed, and we're freaking out because we're just like, how are we going to get back home now? Like, we're stranded. But then thankfully, because we got in contact with Douglas, because he was like still there for a while, probably like helping with cleaning up. And he was able to give us a ride back to Penn Station, which was great because it was honestly a little bit scary. Being 7 years old, walking around the streets of New York. I mean, I witnessed someone get arrested.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, I witnessed someone get arrested, and then I remember someone. Actually, I remember my mom was trying to ask somebody for help. Didn't help her. So, like I said, it was honestly kind of a scary experience. Being that young and just being in the unknown like that, and just not knowing what to do. But short-lived experience. I'm over it.
So
But, yeah,
would you
it was
feel
weird.
though that if Douglas had wasn't there, do you feel like you would have quit the show from that experience?
No. I mean, like I said, yes, all that was weird, but would I quit the show over that? Nah. Mm-mm. I still would have went through with that. Because, since that all happened outside of the show, it's like that would honestly just be stupid of me to end my experience with the show based on something that had nothing to do with it, So, nah, I would have kept going with it no matter what.
Let me see. So there you go. Green screen. It was a difficult technology to work with back then.
Yes.
Now it's everywhere.
Yep.
So you guys jump into the picture and you meet a cool cat. The ugliest cool cat I've ever seen.
Absolutely.
Like,
I'm pretty cool.
She was cool, but the budget, let me just tell you, the budget for the butterfly costume, you could tell that they spent most of the budget on the green screen and the set because the butterfly costume and the cat costume. So you meet a cool cat and you ask for her help tracking mice, and the cool cat just, she after her shenanigans, she leaves you with this little tidbit of think like a mouse. The whole scene, it was, I'd say the whole scene of jumping into the picture and everything like that, it was interesting. Like, the whole set was very interesting. It was a living room and all that. But the costume, though, for the cat, it was cool, but just the face. The face didn't match the costume.
A little bit.
So I was
Something
like,
tells me that might have been an intentional choice. I mean, I really can't confirm that. But I wouldn't be surprised. Just, again, based on how nearly everything was handled with that show, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, they knew that it didn't exactly match, but they were like, let's just do it anyway. Why not? Because, I mean, and let's be real here. I mean, especially kids watching it at that time, they weren't going to really know the difference or care. So
yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. Real cat that can talk. That's it. So you guys get back to the box and you tell Jill and Tony about what you experienced with the cat, and you tell them, oh, we got to think like a mouse. So then Vivian poses the question of, if you were a mouse, well, where would you want to be?
It's arts and crafts time.
So the arts and crafts is this lavish mouse house.
Yes.
There was no instruction for it, and most of the time, you guys have like, well, we need this and we need this, so the first thing we're gonna do is this and this and this. And with this one, it was just like, we just watched you guys do the arts and craft, but you didn't tell us what to do. And
yeah, that was definitely a bit unconventional for the show, because we usually always were pretty specific with what we were doing, what you needed. But that was, I would say that was probably the most impromptu arts and crafts time we had.
Right.
That is true. Yeah, it was just like, all right, we're doing it. Follow along if you can do it or not. I don't know.
Right.
But
I mean, it wasn't a montage, but it might have been a montage. And for everyone listening, they know how much I love montages. And for everyone listening, they know how much my tone of voice reflects my attitude towards things. So after you guys build your mouse house, you try calling for her like a dog. Nugget, like as if she was a dog.
Just like she's gonna bark and respond like, oh, here I am.
Yeah. And then you get the idea of making a snack trail to lure out Nugget now. And so, Vivian's like, listing things that mice like. And then you say, oh, cheese. And she's like, well, actually, it's not good for them to eat. Nice little tidbit of information, too. Like how cats, you don't give them milk, and how you don't give mice cheese, and how you don't give ducks bread.
Yeah.
Because it's not good for them. But, so that's another interesting little tidbit that I did not know. You're not supposed to give mice cheese. So, you guys get your sunflower seeds and your raisins from your after-school snack bag. And, you make a trail on top of some styrofoam that Cece was, like, got from the trash bin, the dirty trash bin. And you made a trail. So, You make the trail, but she's still not showing up. So you tell everybody, well, why don't we just leave this alone so we don't scare her off? And then Tony decides to tell you guys the story of the lion and the mouse.
It's story time.
So, the lion and the mouse. You, Dane, were the lion, and you were going to eat this mouse, Cece. But you spared her life, and in return, she said that she would pay you back the favor. So, Vivian and Jill, being very quiet because they're hunting lions, capture you and are going to, I don't know what you would do with the lion. What are you gonna cut its hind legs off and eat it? Like, what do you do? Why do people hunt it?
Or use me as a rug, you know.
That would have been interesting. Like, just then, the hunters, after they got back to their village, the hunters sprawled out their lion and used it as their...
Yep.
I
mean, look what
imagine-
happened in Hercules, because, I mean,
I just
Star was
imagine
used as a
you.
rug.
I just imagine you just, like, laying there on the floor as a rug.
That would be ridiculous.
And then the mouse would come and help you out by scaring the two hunters so that way you could get away. Because they're like, oh my gosh, it's a mouse. But no, that's not what happened. So you get caught in a net, and then Cece comes back to help you out of the net. And then these hypocrite hunters are just like, well, we want to be friends with you too. And then you guys just end up being friends with them. The end.
Like
I'm like,
nothing ever
what's the
happened.
point of this? I get the point is to be respectful of others and basically don't burn your bridges.
Yeah.
Is basically the whole lesson behind the story.
Mm-hmm.
But
And I also
mean,
feel like it's also about just accepting people's differences. You know, like accepting that people around you are different from you, and that's okay.
except for the hunters. They burnt that bridge as soon as they caught you.
True.
So I don't get why y'all were being friends. Like, no way we're being friends with you. You tried to capture me. We're sorry. We just wanted a pet lion. Okay,
Like, well,
we'll be
go
friends
to the
now.
store, then. Don't kill me.
So yeah, so after your little play acting, she's still not there. So the last ditch effort is to sing a song to lure Nugget out of hiding.
Of course.
It's music time.
So the song is called "Come Out, Little Nugget." It had the beat of "If You're Happy and You Know It," and it had like this slow reggae vibe, but it felt like it should have been in like one of those Christian VHS tapes. You know what I mean? Like the music. I was like, is this the same show? Because we had two slow songs in the same episode. I would have been bored out of my mind if I watched this episode as a kid. Finally, after Nugget hear their beautiful singing, she finally appeared at the mouse house. And you guys get her and you tuck her back and put her away for a nap. And that was Playhouse Mouse. So let's go ahead and talk about, let's give our verdict then. So the theme of mice, I'd say it's definitely, it's an interesting thing because, well, animals are always something that fascinate kids. And, well, kids have this thought of what mice are, but it kind of gives a better insight of what mice actually are, because, like, people think, oh, they eat cheese, and they do this and do that. But, you know, it kind of educates them better of, like, they're not supposed to eat cheese, and, you know, they squeeze, you know, basic, simple things like that.
Yeah.
So I'd say it still holds up in regards to educating young kids about mice a little bit more. What about you?
Yeah. And, you know, because now that I think about it, it was a pretty interesting choice for them to use a mouse because, you know, of course they have a common rep of just being gross. Everyone's always freaking out about them. But you know what? There are actually quite a few people out there who really love mice. I know a few people who have have had, you know, mice as pets or just a mouse. So it actually was a pretty smart choice, I think, for them to use a mouse instead of just, you know, a general or a generic cat or dog. Because, you know, in a way, it was just to kind of help. I mean, I don't know if anyone was thinking that, you know, had this mindset, but it's just like, it kind of just helped to show that, you know, other types of animals can be pets, like not, and, you know, just because it's a mouse doesn't mean it automatically has to be gross. Like, it can be loved, like other things, you know, so, yeah. like I said, of course, for me at the time, I wasn't thinking that. But when looking back, though, I'm just like, actually, think that was a smart choice.
The music, then. The music, I'd say it's... Normally, I'd say it holds up, but this is just... I don't know. It holds up in regards to it's catchy, but I feel like being integrated into the episode, I feel like it brings the episode down because, well, it's two slow songs. There's not one exciting song and one slow song. If there was an exciting song and then a slower song, then it would be a better result. But because it's two slow songs, it brings down my thoughts of the episode.
Okay. And the Everyone Wants to Be a Mouse, that song, not gonna lie, wasn't really my favorite song to do either, because singing it was actually kind of difficult because we were singing so high. I mean, yes, like I could just kind of sing high naturally at the time because I'm a young kid, but it just was it was just, like consistently highly pitched the whole time. So it was trying to do that without, completely killing my voice. It got a little challenging after a while. And it's also a little grating on the ears. I will admit that.
The arts and crafts, then, I don't think it holds up today because, well, there aren't any instructions on how to do it, and, well, you don't want, little Jonathan to go into the kitchen and then get yelled at by mom to, like, put that back.
Right.
Because,
like, but Mom, I saw it on the show.
I don't care. Put it back. The arts and crafts did not hold up because there isn't anything really that you guys did. You guys could have made mouse whiskers. Like, I know a way we can figure out how to think like a mouse. And then you guys could have made mouse whiskers and then, mouse ears. And that could have been the arts and crafts.
Yeah, true.
Hindsight's 2020, though. So, the story time, though. I'd say the story was the highlight of the episode. Because, well, it was, it was a complete story about a lion. It was the lion and the mouse, and I feel like it was a great way of, doing the story in a short amount of time. It got the whole point across, and there wasn't anything complicated about it.
Right. I did have fun doing that story. I felt a little silly in my lion costume because, just having that yellow scarf wrapped around my head to represent the mane just felt very, very silly. But overall, though, no, I definitely had fun doing that. I do remember that very fondly still.
And the overall acting of everyone in this episode, I feel like it was very good because, well, we got a sense of everyone's personality. How you guys were naming the mouse. You were giving different names and how you guys got excited about it. And just figuring out how to find this mouse. I got a sense of everyone's personality from that episode. But so I'd say the overall acting is still something that holds up. But overall, though, Playhouse Mouse still holds up.
Yeah, the way the episode was handled overall was quite different compared to how it generally went.
And
so,
it feels different because there was an underlying plot. The underlying plot being they're this missing mouse. If it was just like, oh, Vivian has a pet mouse, and she and it wasn't about the mouse missing, and it was just about mice, I feel like it would have flowed better because the show's not being dragged along in certain parts, but because there was a plot involved where the mouse goes missing, then that's why it felt weird because the show's being dragged around this way. If it didn't have that, it would have I wouldn't have batted an eyelash at it feeling different.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
But, so Dane, I really appreciate you, making the time, for the show. And I really appreciate, being honest with your answers and sharing your perspective. Is there any last minute thoughts, you'd like to share?
Well, no problem at all. And thank you for having me on the show. I'm glad we got to do this. And I also just want to say thank you to you and everyone else who may be listening to this, just for your love of the show. The fact that y'all still love this show nearly 25 years later, that's awesome. It means a lot, believe me. And And I guess the only other thing I can say is that just continue to be you, whatever that means for you. Because, that was actually, it didn't dawn on me until years later that was one of the major points of Out of the Box, to just be you, accept yourself for how you are, accept others for how they are. You don't be afraid to use your imagination and have an out of the box type of thought process. Just, use that. Don't ever lose that. Seriously.
Make sure to leave a comment if you like what you hear. Why not subscribe? I'm on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, and YouTube at the Box Cutter Podcast. Send all feedback and suggestions to the Box Cutter Podcast at gmail.com, because it takes a village to raise something beautiful. In the words of Tony and Vivian, so long, farewell, until we meet again.